involved.
You're involved, are you?
I am involved.
Whatever. She's been sitting there like this, like not really talking.
I'm
like,
talking.
Oh,
Hello.
I'm me. Look, I'm here. Good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday, May the 23rd. It is 8 p.m. exactly, and we are live with Ask an Expert. What number is it?
19?
It is number 19. Ask an Expert number 19. Welcome. Who would have thought 19 weeks straight we've been doing this now? Does everyone know we started this on a Tuesday lunchtime and then we moved it to a Wednesday evening? I feel like old. I feel like veterans of what we're doing. No? Is 19 not that many weeks?
You get very excited.
I love this.
This time of day on a Wednesday, you get very excited.
I really enjoy this. You know, apologies if I love what we do more than you love what we do.
I love it just as much as you, darling. I do. However, I've been up since 3
Oh,
a.m.
do you know what? If I 1 minute, are you kidding me?
I'm a little bit tired and jaded.
Don't listen to her, right? Are you kidding me? It took you 1 minute to say that. Anyway.
Hello everybody. I haven't seen you for a little while actually, because I think last week I was at a family meal and Alan was left to go rogue all by himself again.
Yes, it was. Hi Glenda, you're right.
Hello. He does go rogue a little bit and enjoys it, and he goes a little bit off the wall, and so I'm back to rein him in a little bit.
Boring. Boring. When are you going away again?
Not for a little while.
Oh, I know, it's going to be both of us for the next few weeks. Anyway, so tonight we've got what we're calling the Power edition. See what I did there? That's reference like local radio of the early 90s. Power FM was my local radio station, and it was Power. Well, I lived near you, darling, so we had the same local radio. Anyway, so we're going to do our normal run through what we've been up to. We've got a couple of things we'd like to mention from our week. Then Emily's got a power stroke generator related story. Then we're going to discuss your power needs, power requirements, and then obviously we're going to talk about how amazing the royal wedding was. Throughout all of that, if you have any questions at all, please throw them in. Any thoughts, any questions or anything, just chuck them in, please. And
also, before we start anything else, a massive welcome to all of our new members, because there's been a few of you in the last couple of weeks.
We have had a good few members join. It's been really nice watching them all tick in, really, hasn't it?
So I'll start with our week, shall we?
So there's two things to talk about I've got on the list, obviously. One is Pinterest.
Pinterest? Who knew?
If you use Pinterest, give us a thumb up or a heart or something.
Now, I use Pinterest. Oh, dodgy thumb. My thumb doesn't really straighten. It's a bit weird like that, so I'm sorry. I always have a bit of flavor.
Is that weird?
It doesn't straighten up.
All right.
Pinterest.
Sarah uses Pinterest.
Excellent. I love Pinterest as good as most more. Do you use Pinterest? I don't know if it's a girls thing more than a boys.
I have dabbled. I get it as a kind of. The only phrase I've got in my head is mood board, but that's not really what I mean. Like scrapbook. Yeah. I get it as a model. I have used it for scrapbooking.
We haven't really started with the Outside Bride really pushing Pinterest. We've done a lot of Facebook, as you know, because you're here. We've done a lot of Instagram, which is just blows my tiny little brain most weeks.
Well over, smashed past 3,000 now on Instagram.
Yeah, 3,300 now.
Something like that. I might try and
Pinterest,
find out.
Hannah, our lovely Hannah, who will be on a live soon enough, whether she likes it or not, I'm just going to press the button and make her join us soon enough, and she's going to be terrified that I'm going to press that button one day and she's going to be on the screen. Hannah has been plugging away at our Pinterest slowly but surely, and I went on to some social media training the other day, and I went, let's just have a look at our Pinterest board. We had like 6,000 viewers last month. Where did they come from?
Yes.
So thank you if you looked at our Pinterest board, and if you haven't, we're the Outside Bride on Pinterest. Feel free to follow us if you don't already.
Well, there's a link through to it from our website. If you go to the outsidebride.co.uk to the social links, top and bottom, just click on the P for Pinterest, and it will take you straight to our page.
It will indeed. So that was really good. Thank you very much. If you have followed us or liked any of our pins so far, that's just made by a little week, because we just didn't even know it was happening.
Give us a thumbs up or something if you've been on the Outside Brides Pinterest board. Do we call it a board?
Yeah.
That shows how down with Pinterest I am. I will be an expert on Pinterest by the end of the week. So, Okay, well, it doesn't look like anyone's been on, so no thumbs up, but then also we don't have the quickest internet in the world here, so it may pop up in about 5 minutes. So that's cool. So Pinterest is fab. Also, we were in our local newspaper, the Daily Echo. I did share it into the group yesterday evening.
We didn't even know we were going in.
No, we didn't. Emily's mum, my mother-in-law, sent us a picture, a text message, iMessage, going, did you know you're in the Echo?
No,
we're like, no, we did not know we were in the
paper.
Echo. No, absolutely. So we had a lovely little write-up about us and where I don't like saying where we come from, how we got to doing what we do.
Where we are now.
Those kind of, I got made redundant. I'll give a very quick story. We got married in Swanage, in a field with a marquee overlooking the sea, because that's what we wanted. So Emily came from Southampton, I came from Andover, both of them are naff. Cool, thank you, Emma. Let us know. She's going to check out our Pinterest. Hi, Belinda. Yeah, let us know what you think, Emma. Hopefully it's good, but please feel free to feedback. So yeah, Andover and Southampton both rubbish. So we picked Swanage, and for our overnight accommodation, this is before all this malarkey, we picked a bell tent, or I surprised Emily with a bell tent, and then basically the night we landed back off at our honeymoon, I turned my phone on as the plane landed and all my messages come through, and I had one from my boss saying, can you ring me? So I texted him back going, look, I've just landed from my honeymoon, are you about to make me redundant? Because I heard could be coming. And he said, I can't answer that, but I need to see you at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. So I got made redundant the day we landed off of our honeymoon.
True story.
But fast forward 6 years and here we are, so it's not all bad.
It made us make a very good life decision to start something fun for the both of us. And here we are 6 years later, loving it.
We do love it. We love pretty much everything we do. I struggle with.
Even love his shirts.
I struggle with drying wet tents. Actually, that sometimes takes its toll on my psyche. But I definitely love all this malarkey, and I absolutely love hearing what the brides and the couples are up to.
And we're in full-on wedding mode now. We've got 2 weddings this weekend. We had a wedding last weekend, and we've got
2 weddings and a party this
2
weekend.
weddings and a birthday party this weekend. And then weddings, straight through into September.
Weddings, corporate, back to back all the way through, haven't we? So no, which is absolutely amazing. And fingers crossed, the majority of you have got your weddings coming up. We should do a bit of a when are you getting married post.
We ask this every week.
Yeah, well, no, we ask who's getting married like this week, but I might do put something up tomorrow. Chuck your wedding dates down. Redundancy rules, that's how I came to train as a celibate. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes we all need
one of those
that push.
Little pushes. You wanted to do it anyway, and then someone makes.
Well, I certainly wasn't happy at work. That's for certain. I knew from a very young age that I didn't want to work for the man. But I didn't know what to. I'm an overthinker, so every time I thought of something, I would over. Feel free to say something positive. So every time I came up with anything, I would always overthink it and talk myself out of it. So.
Changing the subject on something much more exciting. Who watched the royal wedding this week?
No, that's last.
Oh, why?
Okay, go to the royal wedding.
Who watched the royal wedding this week? I loved everything about it. I don't care what anyone says, what anyone criticises. I loved everything about it. I loved the drive. I loved the fact that the brothers turned up in a Mercedes Vito like we own. I thought, yes, we've got like a royal car now.
Technically, it's a Viano, but just put it out there.
They turned up in a people carrier. I loved the fact that she looked simple and elegant. Who cares?
Do you know what I loved? I loved like when the weddings in the past have been at like Westminster Abbey or anything else. The cars have pulled up at the bottom of the steps and the guests have walked up and in. But because this was at Windsor Castle, they obviously parked off somewhere else and walked down the side in front of all the masses. And I felt that was like when you get married and all the guests meet at the pub beforehand and then walk to the church. I felt that for me that felt very much like that. So it was kind of felt grounded from the very start.
My only sadness with the entire wedding, and I loved all of it, and I am a massive royalist, I love it, was that Eugenie and Beatrice, where were their hats? Where were they? I was expecting a big peacock coming out of someone's head or something completely dramatic and theatrical, and it wasn't there. It was all very staid, I thought. But they look lovely, but I wanted a big...
Belinda agrees. I'm with you. It was lovely. And Gemma says, had a garden party for the wedding. Any excuse? Absolutely, Gemma. It was. You know what? It was a happy, and we love the phrase happy. It was just a happy occasion, and you know, it was awesome.
It'd be interesting to see as well what elements of that day get put into the wedding trend for the rest of the year and for next year as well. I mean, the simple...
Well, we've said we think simple, kind of clean lines and simples in, haven't we?
We love a lace dress. Don't get me wrong, I love a lace dress, but it was so nice to see something so completely opposite end of the spectrum.
Well, for me, it was as much about the flowers and
the archway.
Yeah, the archway was gorgeous, wasn't it?
And
actually, can we really say it was simple when they had 600 guests? That amount of guests, it really wasn't a simple wedding if you look past the pasta.
The
pasta.
Oh, whatever.
Pastor. The American guy.
The bishop, he just made my entire day, and I love watching the royal family all go.
I think it's pastor.
What doesn't really matter? Everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, I know.
Anyway, back on to why we're here every single week, and I realise we start to babble more and more.
Well, that's why I was going to bring the power story in and finish on the royal wedding.
If anyone has questions, please do feel to keep dropping them in as we're talking. I'm going to start with one because I went on a lunch date with a colleague friend of mine who owns a venue, and even though she's not a bride and she owns a country house venue, her story she told me today, and I'm sure she'll be more than happy for me to share it with you today as well, did bring up some flags for me to discuss power with you guys when you're thinking about generators. And I know it's a bit boring, it's not quite flowers and table centres.
Unfortunately, it's boring but ridiculously important.
So Danielle, love Danielle, was in a bit of a predicament this week. She had an event on where it was a marquee in the grounds rather than being in the house itself, and due to the size and scale of the event, they usually draw power from the house, but on this particular occasion they ended up having to get a generator because there was not enough communication in the way all the separate suppliers were talking to each other. So we had the venue, who, with under the impression, as they were event managing, so to speak, were under the impression that they could draw their power from the house, as they have for every other event under the sun. The marquee provider supplied the generator, supplied all the stuff and all of the electrics to plug into the house as per the specifications, and the caterer was there using their equipment to plug into the electrics for the house, because obviously when you have a catering tent they bring their own equipment, usually being things from fridges, freezers, deep fat fryers, single ring burner, all those kind of things they will bring into your event. And that will be most of the cases if you're having an event caterer coming in. Some people do them pre-cooked and they just do the prep work on site. Some people do the entire the full kit and caboodle there as well. So problem was, when the initial conversation happened with the caterer, they were under the impression that they would only need 6 plugs. Now, being a big country house, the house has been rewired in certain ways, and there are parts of the house that have been rewired to modern specifications, and they had the plugs ready and it had all been wired into the house all around the tops and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't really matter. When it came to it though, the caterers actually needed 8 plugs rather than 6 plugs. You'd think that isn't the end of the world, because you think you've got a kettle, you've got in our kitchen right now we've got a kettle, we've got a microwave, we've got a coffee machine. Doesn't always necessarily take a lot to draw from that, but actually those 8 things at one time all going off could cause quite an issue. And as it happened, they tried to wire everything into the house electrics and it went bang, which meant that at last minute the venue had to go in and source a generator, and they spoke to the marquee supplier about what they needed. I think I take all this very loosely. They spoke to one of the suppliers to say what they needed, and off they went to HSS Hire, got a generator which was about an 8 kVA generator, and they tried it all in, plugged it all in, nothing worked. So then they had to go and get subsequently 2 more generators, 2 smaller generators, to have 3 generators on the site, and still with various different connections and stuff like that, it didn't work because certain things were drawing power from different ways and it just did not work. They spent 7 hours trying to work out what plugs into where, what combination to where, what can go into the house, what can go into the generator, they put petrol into the diesel generator or vice versa, and it was all a big mess. So basically they were screwed. So the lesson from this, they managed to sort it out, and by the actual wedding on the Saturday, they had power. The caterers had 8 plugs worth of stuff. They managed to not blow up the house. They managed to not blow up the other generators, but at a cost of hiring 3 generators that they didn't know they were going to have to hire before the event started.
They had a connector issue, I think you told me.
There was a connector issue.
I'll mention connectors in a moment.
You're a bit more. I know the generic stuff, and there's more specifics. The lesson from this I wanted to stress in this conversation today is that you will talk as a bride and groom, and most of the time you won't have a venue organiser like someone like Danielle, because you'll be going into a field or a garden or your house or whatever. So you might not have that point of call. She shouldn't have actually been that point of call. She was literally opening the doors to the venue and letting suppliers come in. But if you are the person solely organising your own wedding and you are going to be responsible for organising the power and stuff like that, talk to your marquee or your TP or your covered area supplier and find out what exactly it is they will be supplying on the day and get that written down. If you have other suppliers that will be needing to use or draw upon any power whatsoever, be it a caterer, be it a DJ, be it a band, be it a photo booth, make sure from the outset you know exactly what they will be bringing that they need to put into a power source, and make sure you get written down what the draw of that plug into that socket is going to be, because it is that technical, because ultimately you're putting in temporary power. This is not fixed power that's there like you put your standard 3-pin plug into the wall and hope for the best. This is a lot of stuff running off, usually quite a small generator, and you need to know exactly what's happening. Not only that, when it came to the situation that's just been and gone, there was a marquee company and there was a catering company, both saying to the other person, no, it was them. Ultimately, it makes no difference. You're up the creek without a paddle, really, if the power isn't working. So get your supplier to write down in writing what they need. If it's a caterer and they say we need 8 trestle tables and 6 plugs, get a diagram written, get it drawn up, and say, before you even get to site when your marquee or your TP is being erected, this is what my caterer needs, this is the amount of tables they need, and they will require a plug, a single or a double plug, because that's also important, depends on what they're plugging in. They will need a plug back here, here, here and here on this diagram, and have it written down black and white so you have that to come on. Then when you go to your power supply, which you may be supplied by usually by your marquee provider, because they'll do it as part of their package, not always the case, you might be doing it separately. Find out from them, this is what I've got on paper, this is what they'll be drawing, what size generator do I need that will cover all of these bases, because if 8 of these are plugged in at the same time, I have this covered. And I can tell you now, categorically, a 4 kVA, 5 kVA, or even an 8 kVA generator will not be enough for you to run your entire wedding for an entire day off just a 4, 5, 6 kVA. It's just not enough. Look at the costing. You'll probably find it's not a great deal in price difference. Get the larger one every time, in my opinion that is. Get the larger generator every single time, and make sure you invest in that, because you do not want anything tripping on that day. You've spent a load of time and money and effort making you have the best day ever, and it looks beautiful. You don't want to be dancing in the dark, or you might want to dance in the dark, but you don't want to be in silence and dark and everything, because it's just not worth it. For the extra 50 quid it might be to get the next size up, I would say get the next size up and don't have a power issue on the day.
Right, so I'm going to elaborate on that. So power is a simple maths question, right? It is as simple as what's your draw, we provide the draw, right? However, the majority of people aren't going to know exactly what their draw is. They're going to say what Emily's just said, and they're going to go, I need 3 or 4 plug sockets, 1 plug socket, etc., etc. If you think about a house, when you've got a plug socket in the wall, and you then put an extension, a double plug socket, you then put an 5 gang in each of them, so you've now got 10 going into that too, and that's your TV, DVD, whatever you've got, behind the TV. That's all fine, and technically it's going into 1 plug socket. So that's kind of a way of thinking about what we're talking about here. However, by the time you extrapolate that up into a marquee in an outdoor wedding for a long period of time, and as Emily said, you might have caterers with kettles, Burkos. I nearly said Burko, the water boilers.
Yeah, they take
and
a lot
else.
of power.
Yeah, they take a lot of power, and that's when it becomes complicated. I mean, I'm just kind of talking around it for a minute. And the other thing is like when you see a catering van and they just have a little generator out the back, that's probably because they're just powering a radio, a microwave, and a deep fat fryer. So, you know, they don't need a lot. But weddings are very different ball games. You know, when you think, let's talk marquees for a minute. When you've got a marquee, and you've got lighting throughout, you might have twinkling star cloth, chandeliers, uplighters, outside lights, then you've got power for the catering and everything else. So it's quite a lot. As a minimum, we would always suggest a 23 kVA generator. Yeah, that's what we've, for every marquee job we ever did, we put a 23 kVA in. That's usually towable by a car. A big car, you know, not going to be a Ford Fiesta, and that should be enough. Now, like I said, I've got to jump around a bit because ultimately you should put this responsibility onto your tent provider, your marquee TP provider, because this is on that kind of list of things that you don't quite think about. You know, you need a marquee, but you might not think about the lighting, the power distribution, the distribution board that then will go out the back of the marquee, and then the generator that plugs into it. So there's quite a lot involved. So I would always ask the marquee or TP company to provide all of that. I get that you're then restricted by what they charge, but hopefully they're reasonable. I see a lot of comments in some of the other wedding groups about scammers. 97-8% of suppliers are not scammers. You know, they're reputable.
The only caveat I would say to that is if you're finding a tent provider that's coming from afar. For example, some of the TP providers across the country are based maybe Devon or Kent or wherever, but they travel nationally.
Agree.
It's always worth, even if they supplied a generator for you from their company in Devon and your event's in Norfolk, that's a lot of expense.
Well, hold on. So what should happen is...
I'm getting there. It's a lot of expense for them to transport that generator on the back of a vehicle all that way to the other side of the country. They should be getting it locally. However, they should be responsible for...
Or what they will probably do is not source it for you if they're travelling that far away, but they will tell you exactly what you need. And that's the point. When Emily's getting it written down, what you want is an email trail. That's all you want. So you email your marquee TP supplier, whoever it is, and go, what generator do I need to source? So there's two bits of information that are super important. Important piece number one is its kVA rating. We've been talking 4, 5, 8, 23, 40. So that's the first bit of information you need. The second piece of information you need is what socket it needs on it. And that's going to be terminology like 32 amp single phase, 32 amp three phase, 64 amp three phase, stuff like that. I would imagine it will be 32 amp three phase or something like that. That's kind of a standard.
I think like the big blue sockets you get when you plug in, it's very easy to get wrong, but they're different sizes.
Yeah, they go up from like 16 amp, you know. So we don't want to waffle with figures. So what's important is the kVA rating and what connector they need. Nothing else is important. I mean, there's obviously intricacies about who's delivering it, who's going to connect it. If you're not sure, then hopefully your marquee TP company or the generator company will connect it up. You need to think about fuel. If you are going to turn your generators on around midday and turn them off about 10, 11 o'clock when the music goes off, you probably won't need any more ovens in it. If you're going to run it and you're having a festival style, then you want to get some jerry cans delivered with it, but you can send someone out to top up from the local petrol station, the diesel. What are you going to say?
The other thing I was going to make, it's just flagged into my head, was Josh's wedding night last year. If you're not sure... If you have ordered a generator and you have worked out with your providers what's going to be plugged into that generator throughout the day, under no circumstances think, especially if you don't know about power, don't go and start plugging other things in onto that system.
Yeah, we did have that. So we'd put in some lights. Obviously, when we hand over, we go, don't touch anything. If it stops working, let us know. And they decided to plug a fridge in the end of a load of lights because of the way they work. There's an in and out. And they thought they'd just put a fridge in on the end of it, and it blew that entire line of lights. So I got a phone call at, I don't know, it was Saturday morning of the wedding, and I had to zoom down to the forest and fix it for them, which is really not a problem, but unfortunately they were liable for it, so then they got quite a huge bill for all the blown equipment.
You could get stuck with is if you're not sure what power draws and if you've got the very minimum on your circuit, don't start plugging extra things because you don't always know what that draw is of that product. And best case scenario is you blow a ring of lights up. Worst case scenario is you might burn the tent down. So let's
which does bring me on to a couple of my other points. There's a couple of questions here which we'll answer in a minute. So I've mentioned weather. Someone asked me about our generators waterproof. I've never heard that a generator is not waterproof. Right, so never heard they're not waterproof, but check with wherever it's coming from. Excuse me, I mentioned fuel, about getting extra jerry cans. Mm-hmm. A backup generator. Every company's going to offer you a backup generator. I am not going to sit here and tell you whether you take or don't take that backup generator. That depends on how you want to spend your money and how nervous you are. I will say that in all my years, I've only ever heard of a generator breaking down once. It does happen. That's the point. It doesn't happen very often. It's up to you whether you take a backup generator or not. But you might want to check with your provider what's the emergency plan if it breaks down. Yeah. Someone's questions about silent generators. Where is it? They can be noisy. Glenda's put they can be noisy. Yeah, absolutely.
But
so what we would do, we talk regularly about the working side of the marquee. Right, so I'm going to draw this quickly. Right, if that's a marquee, that's meant to be a square. Hold on, I will hold this up. Catering.
You know when you play Pictionary and someone's always going, see what that is? That's exactly what he's just about to draw.
Right, basically, this is what we were saying. So if this is the marquee, that's the door. Generally speaking, the catering will be over here, off the back or off the end, if these are W's for windows. Is that upside down? It's upside down. Mm-hmm. W's for windows. So you have like a front side and then what we would call a working side. Now, assuming this was the disco here, actually it wouldn't necessarily be in front of the catering, but it can be. As long as I would put the generator over here. So all your guests are sat over here looking out the window. You've got the speakers blasting that way and the noise of the catering. So the generator over here, you're not going to hear. And your guests aren't going to see it as they walk in round to the front of the marquee or the teepee or the building, whatever. It's the same principle. It's just I talk about marquees.
When they do make a noise, anything making that much power is going to make some sort of noise. They're not going to be dead silent. However,
well, I've got a side story. I have had one. It was that silent. We were absolutely gobsmacked at house. I had to check it was running. Yeah, but that's all wine.
I think with the type of event you've got hundreds of guests. You've got music playing. You've got buzz of talking. You've got things going on. It's like when you live on a main road. After a while, you just.
Well, it's as simple as that. When your guy turns a generator on and shows you how to turn it on and you're stood that far away from it and there's no other noise, it's going to be noisy. But when you're 100 metres away with 100 guests, you're not going to hear it. My last thing is, I really hope that's helped. Insurance, right? We talk about insurance all the time. Every wedding group I'm ever in Facebook talks about insurance. It can cost somewhere between 20 quid and 100 quid, if not more, if you need to increase your premiums for the size of your wedding. Take out insurance. Yeah. Make sure it covers generators. I imagine that you are responsible for all equipment at your wedding from when it's handed over to when it's collected. Now, that doesn't mean they're not going to help you. That doesn't mean anything. But if something happens under your responsibility, and especially if one of your guests has caused the issue, then you're responsible
that's
for it.
That's with Baylily Bell Tents. We've actually discussed it this week.
Yeah. Well, that's what made me think about it. So what's I've been through on? Never heard of Jenny One. Exactly, Gemma. Been to a few outdoor events. Never heard of Jenny One. No, we don't. You just don't hear it. It's just one of those things. You still want to get a silent one because there are still loud old school diesel throaty ones. But get your insurance, make sure everything's in email. It may cost a fraction more, but try and get one supplier to do all of your electrics. It will just be worth it. The hassle saved, unless best man, usher, groom, etc., or a female, apologies, not being sexist, is a Sparky. Get one person, one company to do it all.
Actually, we had that with our wedding ourselves, didn't we? We had our generator was sourced.
Before we knew any better, we were trying to save 5p.
Yeah,
basically.
and we sourced ours from somewhere in Poole, and our marquee was coming from Somerset, and we went, don't worry,
we didn't have the connector conversation.
But the connector conversation was never had, and he turned up with connectors for, I don't know, 64 kVA, 64. See, I don't even know.
No, I know. I was impressed at you trying to pretend that.
3-phase, and we went, oh, it doesn't fit.
But we didn't know any difference, so we just ordered a generator.
And it happened that he was a very nice guy, and he went, look, I've got a bootload of stuff, what do you need? And he managed to source us the right connections. But he might have been someone completely silly.
Yeah, please learn from our mistakes. Please learn.
We were very lucky, but ask before, what's the plug? What's your marquee supplier supplying if they're not doing the generator, and make sure you have the right connections, because otherwise you've got two things sitting there that don't actually.
And I promise you, whether it costs 5p more, £50 more, £100 more, the time and stress saving by letting one company do all of your electrics will be amazing. And then when they hand over, you say, I've got a bouncy castle, catering van, whatever coming, where can I plug them into? You know, you hopefully you've had site visits anyway, and you've had those conversations.
Yeah.
They will need to know that before they install your electrics. But yeah, 23 kVA, 40 kVA connector. 40 kVA is like trailer jobby, big trailer jobby. It's big. And to be honest, unless you're having a full-on weekend festival wedding, you should be okay with a 23
But
kVA.
even if you're not going with a generator and you're using the site power, if you've got a site like a country house or a campsite that has a distribution board, it's exactly the same conversation you need to have.
Yeah, what can I plug in, please?
What can I plug in? What can't I plug in? How much can I plug in? And what am I going to be? Get that list early doors. Your caterer, hopefully is a caterer who's been established and knows what they're doing and has done this time and time again, and will know exactly that, because you won't be the first person who's asked. Make sure that they give you what their deep fat fryer is, what their fridge and freezers are, how many plugs they need, and they will know. Because
they're established, they will know what to say. They may not know the exact wattage or whatever, etc., but they will know I need X amount of sockets, and that will translate. Emma, just booked my venue. They highly recommend we get our generators through our TP provider. Yeah. In their experience, if a supplier is going to let you down or cause you issues, it's the generator suppliers. Absolutely, so, and we've done that because it's the I don't know why it is. Perhaps it's just one of those things, but they're not quite up there. Thank you, Gemma, and you. Hope that helped. So yeah, Emma, spot on. It may cost you a fraction more, which I know it's difficult when budgeting for a wedding, but the stress saved, I promise you, will be worth it.
I think what it is with some generator companies, this is not to be too much of a sweeping statement, is they're not specifically in the wedding industry.
Yeah,
they're not dealing with brides and grooms and grooms and brides and brides all the time, and they don't always pay the same lip service maybe that someone who's in the wedding industry. They know you're excited, they know you're novices to it, and they'll walk you through certain steps. Someone like a specific power, it's just not very sexy, is it? Power. They run events for corporates and for building sites. And
they probably deem a wedding quite inconvenient to them, because they know it's going to be a bit more hard work and everything else.
Well, if it's a builder's
not
yard,
hard work, but
if it's a builder's yard wanting a generator for 2 days, they know what they're getting, and off they go and take it from HSS or somewhere. Whereas someone like yourself, who might be complete novices to power, won't know. And
I haven't mentioned money. I don't mind mentioning money. 3 years ago, when we were doing marquee generators, we would charge £400 flat rate. We delivered it, etc., and plugged it in, and then that included all the fuel that we provided. You could use, etc., etc. I assume it's gone up in the past few years, but as a starting figure, we charged £400 for a 23 kVA. It turned up full up with 2 jerry cans, and that wasn't a backup or anything else like that. That was just the generator.
So that's probably a good starting point. If you're getting quotes for £100, then that's probably maybe a bit of a red warning flag.
Yeah.
Unless it's some sort of a major deal from a package that you're getting with your tent supplier. If it's that cheap, why is it that cheap? Because Alan's a nice guy, but you only ever did it at cost, didn't you? Really?
Well, because it only ever came with a big marquee booking, so we didn't look to make a huge profit out of the generator. We just wanted to cover the collection delivery, because any profits we were making as a company was coming from the marquee booking. So, it really wasn't an issue. Right, any questions about power, throw it up whilst I answer this. I saw a programme, Belinda, where a French chateau, Channel 4, 9pm Sundays or 8pm Sundays, I think, where a French chateau wedding venue used solar panels and caravan batteries for power. Is that really viable? Do you know what the answer is? I've got no idea, but yes is probably the answer, because it really depends. Once again, right, it depends what they're running in that chateau. So if they are running plasma TVs and boiling kettles and other things, then as long as they've got enough batteries and enough solar powers, then why not? And I think his name's Dick, who's in it, who used to be in Scrap Heap Challenge, and I think he made an aeroplane out of a matchbox and a gas canister once. So he can probably rig up solar panels and
it's got to be the way forward as well, more sustainable power sources and stuff, and as technology evolves, I'm sure it will on a mobile site work better.
I don't know. Well, could you run a wedding off of solar power and well, I guess if it was all big enough, then in theory, I like a bit of sustainable.
Actually, that's just flat completely.
We're well long, so
completely off piece, completely from power. However, sustainable, eco-friendly just popped into my head, and I just wanted to do a little shout out actually, just while we're here. There is a guy called Josh who's in this group, and he's also in our supplier group, who NJAC bars. He was on one of our baby meets a couple of months ago as well. Really nice chap. Did a vegan-friendly cocktail for us. No, mocktail.
Oh yeah, on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/c/Baylily Bell Tents.
Nice little plug there. Little shout out, because he was on a little TV programme the other day and was flying the flag for eco-friendly, and has become the first mobile bar in the country to be solely biodegradable with their products, with their cups, with their straws, with all of their products and bottles and stuff.
10 out of 10
they were doing a little bit of so they have purely biodegradable as their products, and they had a full extensive range of vegan friendly alcoholic beverages as well, which I thought was very nice. Well done, Josh.
Because fun fact, you can't have a paper straw covered in beeswax, I think that's a standard, and then be vegan.
No,
you can't be vegan if that. Right, that's it tonight, guys. That's somehow the past couple of weeks, when we haven't talked as much as we have in some of the earlier weeks, have gone on longer. I think it's the relaxed, as we haven't got that much to get through. But hopefully you enjoyed the power issue. We all loved the royal wedding. It was amazing. Check out our Pinterest, the Outside Bride on Pinterest. Check out the post about the Daily Echo on here, or on our Baylily Bell Tents. Actually, we didn't pass to the Daily Echo in here. We'll put it somewhere for you to have a look at. What else? Generators, get it all in email. Clarify, it may cost you more. Get it from one supplier. It will be worth it in the long run. That's it.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much. Hope you have a fab evening, everyone.
Night.